Hello and welcome to Comic Book Movie Oblivion, the podcast about feature films based on comic books and comic strips that people have stopped talking about. We are your hosts, Jordan and Kumar, that's me.
And me.
And this week we are talking about From Inside by John Bergin, comic from 1993, movie from 2008.
Yes.
And we have an interview with John.
Amazing.
Which we're going to run. Now, what do we need to set this up?
Well, I mean, the film and the comic are identical. Almost identical.
Almost identical.
And what do you need to know? It's about a pregnant woman on a train at the end of the world.
Yes, it's like apocalypse time.
Yeah, so if you've seen Snowpiercer, Snowpiercer is all you need to know coming in.
Yes, but like less literal than Snowpiercer. But we'll maybe get into all that. So there,
as a framing device to understand the forthcoming interview,
exactly, yes.
If you've got Snowpiercer in your head, that should put into context anything that Kumara and John discuss.
Yes. Okay, let's roll
tape.
Let's see where it goes. I was going to ask you before you called if there was anything in particular you wanted to talk about, so I could dig up some notes. One of the things I do is because I do so much work, I don't forget everything I do, but I kind of put it out of mind and move on to the next thing as much as I can. So it's been quite a few years since I did From Inside, but we'll see how it goes. Well, let me say first, thanks for having me. I love the concept of your show.
Thank you.
Feature films based on comic strips and comic books that people have stopped talking about, right?
Yeah.
You've hit the jackpot with From Inside.
Absolutely.
Even I don't talk about it anymore.
Absolutely. I was going to get to all of that and what your relationship is with it now, but let's build up to that.
Yeah.
So your bio says you're the art director at Lakeshore Records. But looking back, it seems like, you had a spattering of comics there, it looks like in the 90s, but it seems like your artistic fingers are all over the place, like in music and all sorts of stuff. What was your background in the 70s and 80s before you got to the comics?
I started making comics and artwork and illustration in the 80s. I attended the University of the Arts in Philadelphia through the late 80s. While I was there, I studied illustration. While I was there, a friend of mine named Brian Willett and I published an art and comics magazine called Brain Dead.
Okay.
Which featured like comics and illustration mostly by ourselves, but we brought in students and other local artists from Philadelphia to do stuff. I think we actually even had a piece from Charles Burns, who lived in Philly at the time. We did about 9 issues, graduated. I moved to Kansas City, where I worked at Hallmark Cards for a few years. But while I was there, I continued and did another 4 issues. And issue 11 featured like a 48-page black and white version of From Inside. That must have been like 89 or so.
Okay.
It was kind of the same story as the graphic novel.
Yeah.
Pregnant woman on a train traveling across the post-apocalyptic wasteland. Does she have anything to live for?
Right.
Does her kid have anything to live for? It only went as far as the birth scene, but otherwise was pretty much the same as the bigger graphic novel.
Okay.
And in 1990 or so, I did like a series called Ashes for Caliber.
Okay. Did you cold submit to them? Like, how did you get in with Caliber?
No, I was in a comic book store in Kansas City one day and came across a copy of The Crow. It must have been issue 3, I think. And I wrote James O'Barr a letter.
Okay.
Man, your comic is great. Check out mine. Right. And he called me after getting that stuff, and I think we talked on the phone for like 3 hours that night. We were like long lost brothers finding each other. And at the time, so he was doing The Crow for Caliber,
right? And
so he was my introduction to Caliber Press. You know, it's funny. I was just talking to somebody about Caliber, that it was really just like an office in the back of a small comic book store in a strip mall. That was Caliber. Right. Caliber Press. And at any given evening, you could go into that back office, and there was, Vince Locke, Guy Davis, and James O'Barr, all working on their comics. And it's cool to think back to then in like the mid 90s and to see where they are now.
I guess they they had kind of a house, I don't want to say house style, but there was a vibe going on there with, I guess, your stuff and The Crow. And when I think of Vince Locke, I think of like Cannibal Corpse covers
Dead World. He
in
was
Dead
doing
World.
Dead.
Yeah, that's right.
He was doing Dead World. Guy was doing Baker Street. And James was doing The Crow.
Right. So it's all like dark
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it was like a purposeful house style. I think it's
Right.
just, I don't know, something in the water in Lansing, Michigan. It was just, I mean, just think of it. There in Lansing, Michigan was, Vince Locke, Guy Davis, and James O'Barr.
Yeah,
What are the
right.
odds?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I noticed too, rereading From Inside this week, that the prose writing is really evocative in it. So were you writing as well, like just poetry or prose or anything like that?
Yeah, yeah, I've always been. I would love to hear how you came across the book first. Tell me
Well,
that.
I heard hushed whispers about it for decades. It was like, oh, Kitchen Sink put out this book once back in the 90s called From Inside, and it's really dark and cool, and you should try to find it. And I was never able to find it until, and then probably a year ago, I was looking at another list of movies based on comics because we always find ones that are missing on this list or that list. And this one
Right.
listed From Inside, and I clicked on the link, and
Wow.
it was like, oh, I remember that name. That's that book that supposedly exists that you can't find. And then I tried to find a copy, and most of them were a couple $100, but I managed to find one for like $50 or $60 somewhere. So
Wow.
that's how I came up on it. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I was wondering how you actually came across it because it's not it's out of print, but it's
Yeah.
also not a book that you can readily find as a PDF anywhere.
Yeah.
Like it just is not out there.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't want it to be in print. Well, I guess we'll get to it after the kitchen sink tundra stuff, but
Yeah.
well, I spent like maybe 10 years after it was published at Kitchen Sink looking to find somebody who would reprint it, but just never had any luck.
Right.
So I was doing Ashes at Caliber, did 5 issues of that. It was
Okay.
supposed to be 6. As I was working on the 6th issue, James and I met Kevin Eastman as he was just starting Tundra.
Okay. I can't
And
wait to hear this story.
yeah, and he invited us to come on board as a unit. Like, what do you guys both want to do?
Uh-huh.
So James finished The Crow there. James and I also edited a comics anthology. There's prose in it too. It was called Bonesaw. We did one
Okay.
issue, but we were going to do more, but we only got one done. And I brought From Inside there. I had been thinking that there was more to the story than just that 48-page black and white
Right.
strip that I had mentioned. Probably took me about 2 years to do the book
Oh, that's fast. I thought it was going to,
for Tundra.
I was expecting a lot longer, considering it's like close to 300 pages. And
Yeah, it's 300 pages. It's all black and white charcoal drawings on a heavy illustration board that's then coated with matte and then glazed with oils. So it's pretty
whoa.
labor intensive.
Yeah.
The book came about from, you had asked about the prose, and yeah, it's like I do, writing narrative is something that I do. And From Inside was inspired by Moonshadow, John J. Moose,
Yeah.
Moonshadow,
Yeah.
and Kent Williams' Blood. Those were two very influential comics for me when I was growing up in the 80s. I liked to read, and I loved stories that were about something other than just, plot or concepts. Brave New World, George Orwell's Animal Farm, 1984. I had to read that kind of stuff in school, and it's like I didn't complain at all. I loved it. And I was always kind of bummed out that that kind of material couldn't be found in comics, at least not back then. And when I came across Moonshadow and Blood, it was like, oh, this is kind of, treading in those waters. It's a little more literary than just underground stuff or superhero stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I am and was a huge Conan fan, but I always was looking for something more in the material that I was doing.
Right. You're also doing music at the same time? Is it in this period in the early 90s, late 80s?
Yeah. Through the early 90s. I didn't even know where to begin with that stuff. There's so much of it. I've lost count of how many records I've released. I made a soundtrack for The Crow.
Yes.
when James was just finishing up the third book for Tundra / Kitchen Sink. We recorded a soundtrack for it that
For the
was released
comic.
for the comic,
Yeah.
specifically for the comic. The
Yeah.
music was written, specifically for certain scenes in the book. Lyrics were taken from dialogue and prose from the book. It was kind of like a back and forth thing. The comic influenced the music, and the music influenced that last issue
Right.
that James was working on. Shortly after that, when the film was made, Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails had just started his label, Nothing Records, and he invited me to be on his label, along with bands like Marilyn Manson. Well, who was on the label at the time? Marilyn Manson, Prick, Pop Will Eat Itself. There was like 5 or 6 bands, and
Yeah.
we were one of them. My
Yeah.
band at the time, my band at the time was called Trust Obey.
Yeah. So you
But
could have
yeah,
had a music career at this point in history, this
yeah,
one flash moment.
yeah, I've always done everything. I mean, it was
Right.
never one thing or the other.
Yeah, right. So the
Uh,
comics were not like necessarily a priority, or the music wasn't a priority over the comics, or
Nothing I do is ever a priority over
right,
anything else. It's
right,
all the same to me.
right.
Although I guess if you ask me at this point, if I could pick just one thing, I might. But yeah,
So you said it took about 2 years to do From Inside. Did you have a day job at the time, or
no, I
how
was
were you
working full
surviving?
time. I was working full time on From Inside when I was doing the graphic novel for Kitchen Sink.
Okay. Had Kitchen Sink been absorbed by Tundra at this point, or do you know what was going on behind the
I
scenes?
start James and I started off with Tundra.
Okay.
I was literally almost halfway through From Inside. I was painting a scene where the main character's husband's corpse is discovered under a bunch of rubble. So I was
Yeah.
painting sort of like a self-portrait of myself as a corpse. I was working on that when I got the call that Tundra was being absorbed by Kitchen Sink and your book is canceled.
Right.
But that was just a piece of misinformation. Kevin was very cool in making sure that like both James and I got to finish our books with Kitchen Sink.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned the charcoal. Were you also doing like paint or stuff? It's really hard to tell as an outsider looking at it. It seems like there's a different media on every page.
Yeah, it's charcoal and pencil. If you can imagine a charcoal and pencil drawing on heavy illustration board or paper,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's like a waterproof matte coating that's
Yeah.
put over it that's clear, and then I glaze on top of that with thin layers of oil paint.
How did you learn
Sometimes
to do
it's
this? Had you been experimenting with it,
yeah,
or?
I've been experimenting a little bit with it while I was in college studying illustration.
Okay.
At the time in like the late 80s, it's a kind of oil paint called Alkids. It's very thin and it dries really fast.
Okay.
Relatively new at the time, I think.
Right. Okay. And what was the earliest genesis of the idea before the long black and white version? Where did the idea come from of having
The,
this
I,
woman on the
the,
train?
the idea came from thinking about starting a family.
Right.
And as a young person, you're always like, why in the world would I bring a new life into a world
Hmm.
as fucked up as this one?
Hmm.
And just thinking about that and wanting to explore that idea, just from a personal perspective. My ex-wife and I both didn't want to bring kids into the world. We were
Right.
like, why? And about halfway through, again, just about at the point where Tundra switched to Kitchen Sink, about halfway through working on the From Inside graphic novel, we changed our minds and we just realized that like if there's any hope for the future, it's in children. Why would we deny the world that? And that sounds like putting the burden of fixing everything on children. It's not that. What I'm thinking of is more like, why is it that when we're born, our switch is set to innocence, kindness, and everything good? It's like anything bad is learned along the way. It's like I guess there's exceptions, of course, but it's like we're set to be good at the beginning. So it was exploring that idea. And maybe, let's see, the book was published in 93 and we had our son in 96. I have 2 kids. So 3 years after finishing the book, 3 years after finishing the book, we had children.
And then 15 years later, we have this movie. So I get the impression from you're doing the Crow soundtrack that maybe you were already thinking about From Inside in Motion from the beginning, or did the idea come up much later?
The idea came up much later. It was probably, let's see, it was around 2005 or 2006. So that would be like a little over 10, 15 years after the book was published. I was working at Lakeshore Records, still am, but look, I was at Lakeshore Records. Lakeshore Records is a division of Lakeshore Entertainment. They're gone now, but it was a film production company responsible for films like Underworld, I, Frankenstein, Lincoln Lawyer, Midnight Meat Train. So like a real film production company.
Yeah.
And at the label, we had been exploring the idea of releasing, this is kind of like a real roundabout way to how we get to the From Inside movie. We were exploring the idea of releasing surround sound audio. Back then in 2005, 2006, the only way that you as a listener could experience surround sound audio was from a DVD.
Okay, right.
So we released an album by Meat Beat Manifesto, one by Chris Vrenna, the drummer for Nine Inch Nails. There were a few other ones where it was a DVD of their album mixed in surround sound. Right. So it's like if you wanted to hear the Meat Beat Manifesto album in surround sound, you put the DVD into your DVD player and you listen to it that way. But every DVD, of course, has a video track. So on these releases, the video track was really just a picture of the album cover, maybe like 4 or 5 slides that it cycled through. Mm-hmm. So the president of the label, Brian McNellis, had an idea that he pitched to me, which was, would you like to take some of your comics, like From Inside, and marry them with some of your music mixed in surround sound? And we'll release it because, we've got this video channel on the surround sound DVD just sitting there. Mm-hmm. You've got all this visual work. So why don't we do that? And I was like, sure, that's a great idea. Let's do that. But then after thinking about it, I was like, a slideshow of From Inside graphic novel panels isn't going to make much sense.
Yeah.
At the time, too, I'd been getting into short films and animation. So I was just like, why don't we just take it a little bit further, actually do an animated film for this project? And they were like, great, yeah, let's do it. Now, I hadn't read the graphic novel for probably 10 or 11 years when I agreed to do this.
Okay. Okay.
So after agreeing to do it, went home, looked at the novel, started flipping through it. And my first thought was, what the fuck have I just gotten myself into? This is the most pretentious thing I've ever fucking read. But I wanted to do it for a couple of reasons. The book had been out of print all this time. So I thought, what a great way to actually keep the artwork and the story out there for people that might want to read it and see it. I had been doing short films, so I knew it could be done. And at this point, I had had 2 children. So I was looking at this exploration, this question, why bring children into this world from the other side? Yeah. And I felt like I still had something to say about that. And it's not really an animated film. I mean, you didn't feel that way when you watched it, did you?
It's partially animated. There's a word for it. I can't remember what it is, but it's like, it's not completely animated. There's a lot of stills with camera movement, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I called it an illustrated movie.
Yes.
I made that up for myself. I tried to make it so that when you were watching it, you felt like you were looking at paintings that moved.
Yes.
There is animation in it, but like you said, it's mostly the camera that's moving and everything. Well, all the artwork is broken up into planes. It's multi-plane animation, so you can kind of take a camera and move through the painting.
Right. Yeah. It felt like it would be something you would see at an art gallery. Sometimes you go to the gallery and they've got a booth set up with 2 benches and people sit down and watch a video installation. It felt like that, but
that's cool. Yeah, that's a cool way. Yeah, that's a cool way of thinking about it. It's like a gallery presentation. Motion comics weren't really a thing back then. This was probably around 2006. I know that there were some that were out there, but the idea of motion comics was just, I don't think people really do those anymore, do they?
They were a brief flash.
In
time that they were.
I didn't like them. It's like when I was, I set this box for myself that what you're looking at as a viewer always has to look like a painting that moves. And the thing that always ruined that was animating it too much, especially human characters.
Right.
What you just said about being in a gallery is perfect, because that's just what I was aiming for. If you think, oh, what's the name of that painting? Is it Marcel Duchamp?
Oh
This is a
yeah,
pipe.
Nude Descending a Staircase.
No, this is a pipe, or this
Oh,
is
okay.
not a pipe.
Oh, that
What's it
is
called?
yes, yes, that is Magritte, maybe?
Agree. So it's one of those. It's one of
Yes.
those guys.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if it's this is a pipe, or I think it's this is not a
This
pipe.
is not a
That's
pipe because it's a
and
painting
that's
of a pipe. It's not a pipe.
right. Exactly. So if you show somebody that painting, it's a painting of a smoking pipe against a white background. If you show that to anybody and you ask them, "What is this?" They'll answer, "It's a pipe."
Yeah.
Or if you show them a painting of a lighthouse, "What is this?" They'd say, "A lighthouse." But it's not. Those are paintings. But as viewers, we suspend our disbelief or something to accept the representation of a thing as the thing itself. And that's what I wanted From Inside to be like when you're watching it. You don't think to yourself, I'm looking at a painting that's been cut into pieces and the camera is moving through it. I always wanted you to just be lost in the story. And I think if you keep it simple enough, you can do that, where it feels like what you just said, you're in a gallery, you're looking at a screen. And if you do it complicated enough, like a fully animated movie, you get lost in that too. But there's this weird middle ground where if it's not quite animated enough, it doesn't work.
Right. So you've been dabbling in animation before this? I mean, it must have been daunting to go an hour and 10 minutes animated feature out of nowhere.
I had been doing short animated
Okay.
films that were playing in festivals. Probably the longest one I did was maybe 10 minutes.
Okay.
10 minutes long.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was the production process like? You had the existing pages. Did you have to scan them? Were they lettered? Did you have to take out the lettering, or how did this work?
No, the paintings didn't have lettering on them. They just,
Okay.
every panel was scanned and then cut apart in Photoshop into layers. And I would sometimes have to extend the frame or paint extra stuff in the background, because as the camera moves through it, it exposes things that are behind other things as you move. And there is a fair amount of 3D animation in the film too. The engine itself is 3D animated. There's other stuff through the film. That was all done with Maya, an extremely complicated 3D application that I had never used before, but taught myself to use for this film. You might have noticed that the train always traveled in a straight line.
Yeah.
That's because I could not animate it turning and curving. But I just told myself, like Pee-wee on his bike, I meant to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Life is a train that goes straight. You can't get off the rails. So it worked, but just figuring out the math behind those turning wheels broke my brain. Never thought I would have to use the Pythagorean theory, but I did.
Right. Okay, now also at the back of the comic, at the back of the graphic novel, we've got a suggested soundtrack. Then we have the movie comes out, and it's got a soundtrack by Jeff Rona and David Edwards. And then there's another version that comes out with the soundtrack by Gary Newman and Ade Fenton.
Yep.
Okay, so how did it end up having two audio versions? And the actress is different too.
Yeah, there was actually a second soundtrack by Brett Smith. So there's three soundtracks.
Okay, so what happened?
When they're all great, by the way. And I think you can find the Brett Smith soundtrack. I think that one is still available.
There's one on YouTube. I watched both today. I watched the Gary Newman and I think it was the Jeff Rona one is on YouTube.
That might be the Brett Smith one, because I don't think the Jeff Rona one is out there.
Okay.
When Jeff scored the film, we licensed his music for I forget the term. It's like presentation or we licensed his music. The film did a festival circuit for like a year or two, and that also had Corinne Cummins, a different actress, had her voiceover. After it was done doing the festival circuit, we began working on a DVD release and getting the soundtrack out. And we just didn't work out to like the licenses and the rights that you need
Okay.
are different for that than what you need for just screening a film in festivals. And that was why we had Brett Smith do the second score, was so that we would have music that was cleared to be put on DVD and sold. And actually, I think we had just started going into manufacturing with that when I crossed paths with Gary Newman, who was looking to get into doing some film scoring. And I was just like, well, how would you like a nice, easy project with, complete creative control? And he was up for it. So we just made the switch there, because why would you not want to have a score by Gary Newman?
Sure. But the first version or second version got out somehow, because that's on YouTube. So somebody has it.
Yeah.
So was that released on disc at some point, that version?
I think, if I remember right, I think it was released on disc via... It might have just been something I did on Amazon. Amazon On Demand or CreateSpace. I forget what they called it. It was just like this middle ground temporary thing between doing the festival thing and getting actual distribution on it with a DVD.
And so did any of these composers, did they just give you a suite of music that you chopped into the movie, or were they going scene by scene?
Oh no, they had
specifically.
They had the complete film to work with. Yeah. Yeah. In all cases.
Right. And so I noticed there were a few changes. And there was, I guess, a chance for you to correct some of the stuff in that comic that you now found pretentious. Like, for example, the introduction of the bandaged man. And his role in the movie is different than it is in the book, or like the cannibalism is gone from the movie version. So can you talk about some of the changes you decided to make, your thought process behind those kinds of things?
Do you think that the introduction of the bandaged man was a little more clear? I think I just tried to make everything more clear and more streamlined. Yeah, there are a handful of scenes that that the thing that they were trying to say, especially the cannibalism scene, had already been said a dozen times before in other scenes. The whole story is like that. It's like a hammer on a nail. It's just hits. And I think the tolerance for that kind of experience in film is a little less than when you're reading a book. The weird thing about doing the film is that along those lines, I realized for films, not for comics or graphic novels, but for films, dealing with a singular vision can be rough. Because when somebody approaches something like From Inside, the only way into this story is through me. I had a friend helping with sound design, Dustin Blegstad. I had one voice actress and one composer. So you have three other people that maybe they're offering something to an audience member to find a way in. But really, it's just my one single vision. On any other normal film, you have a director, you've got, dozens of actors, you've got a composer, you've got lighting people, you've got costuming people, you have set dressers. Just think of all the hundreds of people that work on a film. They're all working towards the same goal. The director is driving them all, but you have hundreds of points of view about what this thing is. But with something that's a singular vision, you've got just one. So you're either on board with it or you're not. Do you follow what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah. That's interesting because I don't know why you replaced the voice actress, but there's a different feeling from Megan Gold than there is from Corinne Cummins. Megan Gold seems like her voice is more world weary, at times maybe a little bit cynical even.
Yeah, tired.
Yes, that was a more interesting, well, I shouldn't say more interesting, that was a different experience for sure. Whereas the Corinne Cummins was maybe a little bit hopeful, like when the baby comes at the end, you're like, okay, maybe everything's going to be okay. And you don't really get that in the Megan Gold version. And I noticed that you changed the dialogue in the last few words of the movie between those two versions.
What's the difference?
So in the Corinne Cummins version, she says, "Let the fire come," and then she says, "It's time for us to leave this world, my baby, my baby." And in the Megan Gold version, she just says, "Let the fire come," the end. No more dialogue.
Right. I think it just, thinking back to it and what you just said, I think it just fits her take better. She's more worn out by the end of it. Yeah. Another change I liked in the movie was I read the book 2 times,
And I never could figure out where she got the toy dinosaur from. I thought, oh, she saved it from before the apocalypse, maybe. And it wasn't until the movie version you added a little loop at the top of the dinosaur, so then I knew it had come from that mobile at the
Right.
village.
Right. And the film has the shot with a very detailed 3D animated close up of the mobile. So it's like pay attention to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in the graphic novel it's probably in just one or two frames.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Dinosaurs which went extinct.
that's right. Yeah. Okay, so 15 years after the comic, we had the movie. Now it's 17 years later. What's your relationship to the material? How do you feel
Um
about the book and the movie? When I first texted you, I said, "Are you going to reprint this comic?" And you were like, you didn't seem bothered about it. Like it's not a high
yeah,
priority for
yeah,
you.
I would love to see it back in print. I just stopped looking for anybody to do it. So it's not that I don't want it to be in print, but like I said, I just kind of like it's. I guess that I don't like, but I'm okay with it being obscure. It's kind of cool that it was a thing that you heard about. What is this? This weird dark thing that you've got to find and go look for. What in this world these days is like that,
Yeah.
where you have to go and hunt for it. For this conversation, I rewatched the film and looked at the book. And once again, I probably haven't done that for at least 9 or 10 years, if
Mm,
not more.
mm.
The book did not feel pretentious to me this time.
Okay.
It felt like innocent or sweet.
Uh-huh.
Like look at the thoughts this guy is having. And I loved the artwork. I haven't done comics or illustration using that sort of,
Yeah.
not just the technique, but the way that it looks. It's just kind of very soft and simplified. It's not overly detailed. I really
Yeah.
liked it. It made me want to like go back to doing some stuff like that. When I watched the film again, it felt a little murky to me, not visually, but like if the film's trying to say something and it's trying to make a point, my ears are listening for that point. It felt like there was like a little bit of cotton in my ears. Like, what,
Mm,
you know?
right.
If it almost made you want to like go back in there and rework a few things.
Yeah, right. Interesting. I have to say, I really loved the book. It reminded me of, have you ever heard of the Polish artist Zlatoslaw Beksinski?
Oh yeah, of course. I love his work.
Yeah, it was like that, but in comics form, like this
Wow.
real kind of hellscape, frightening, but in a like a distant, ominous way. Yeah, I was really into it. I think maybe it was I don't know if it came out at the right time. I feel like that kind of what we now call grimdark, that kind of black metal
Mhm.
vibe is kind of coming back. And I don't know if it's mainstream, but I see it a lot more than certainly I would in the early 90s, when metal was going back underground during the grunge movement or whatever. I feel like
Right.
it's more of its time now than it was back then.
That's cool to hear. Yeah, I like Beksinski's work a lot. I can see where you would say that. Like there's a scene where the Leviathan train breaks through the wall's garbage, and
Yes.
yeah,
Yes,
that's that.
absolutely.
Yeah, I might not have known of his work at that time back in the early '90s. I don't think I knew about his work
Yeah, it would have been hard to
until
know about him
yeah,
pre-internet.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Funny.
Yeah. There's some Giger stuff in there too, like
Hmm.
the cover, and there's the shot of the overhead shot of the links of the two carriages, and it really looks like that Giger series Passages, which is like the vaginas, which are the
Right. Yeah.
portals in
Yeah.
the factory.
Yep.
It reminded me of that a bit.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
which leads me,
All that stuff was really influential to me back then. That sort of really dark and weird and mean
yeah.
stuff I liked a lot. One of the comics that I just absolutely loved when I was like 11 or 12 was Warren Magazine's 1994
Yeah, right. Yeah.
with Alex Nino, Jose Ortiz, Richard Corbin, just an
Yeah.
amazing bunch of artists. But all of the work that was in, I just started recently rereading these magazines. I haven't looked at them for decades, and I listened to your heavy metal episode and just
Mhm.
absolutely laughed because I forget what you referred to it as tits and lasers.
Tits and lasers.
Tits and lasers. In my mind, thinking back to 1994, these magazines were intense and full of really deep and meaningful social commentary
Uh-huh.
and just incredibly unusual, intense artwork.
Yeah.
And now when I'm looking at them, it's just like, oh my God, it's all just tits and lasers. What did I see in this
Yeah.
stuff? But I was right about the artwork.
The
The
artist,
artwork is
yeah, yeah,
still amazing.
yeah.
But what you just said about, grimdark and death metal, that stuff definitely had that feel, and it had a big effect on me.
Yeah. Okay, so before we go, we need to talk about two things. One of them is connected to Giger because there's a shot where she's dreaming of the engine coming towards her, and it's got these fangs on the front, and it looks just like Giger's design of the Harkonnen palace for Yorovsky's version of Dune. And we got to talk about the Dune stuff on your Instagram because I'm in all
Ring your
these.
bell.
Yeah, we'll ring the bell. I'm in all these Dune groups on Facebook or whatever, and people
Uh-huh.
start sending links to these fake covers, these covers for comics or RPGs or cookbooks that Frank Herbert did not write, but they look like real books. And then it takes me to your Instagram page. And then just in the past month or so, when I was looking up from inside stuff, I was like, wait a second, this is the same guy? This kitchen sink comic I've been hearing about for 20 years,
Right.
it's the same guy that's doing this Dune stuff. Now, I'm looking at what's on your Instagram. It looks like you're making physical objects. It seems like very labor
You're
intensive, and
right.
there's
Right.
zero. This is pure art. There's no money you're making off of this. They're just
No.
Instagram posts,
Yeah.
right?
So to explain, I fell into an alternate universe last year where Frank Herbert was still alive and had written hundreds of Dune universe novels, comics, soundtracks, and cookbooks.
Yeah.
That's what you're describing.
Yes. Yes.
And I brought them all back to show it to everybody.
Right. So it didn't take any work. You just had to appear in that other universe and bring them
Right.
back.
They are most if you see something that's a video, yeah, I made an actual prop.
Okay.
But everything else is just I'm really good at faking stuff with Photoshop,
Excellent. Okay.
especially things that are worn and old looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were fun to do. I haven't done any for a while. I'm sure I'll get back to it. But
Was Dune your thing when you were young, or what was your
yeah,
relationship to it?
I really did like Dune when I was young, but I liked it, grew to like it more and more over the years. Sometimes I just can't believe that it was written in the mid
Yeah.
60s.
Yeah.
Like it's just so far ahead of its time.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that you see me making, fake comic books and fake novels about all the different world building stuff that Herbert did, a lot of those ideas just come from listening to people talk about Dune.
Mm.
Whether it's a podcast or just talking with friends about it. There's a podcast, Last Podcast Network. They did a deep dive on Dune.
Yes, I think I listened to that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Henry Zabowski.
Yes,
and Holden
absolutely. Yeah.
McNeely.
Yeah.
It's great because
Yeah.
it's two guys. One of them is an absolute Dune fanatic, and the
Yes.
other one is completely new to Dune. So that dynamic is just really inspiring for ideas for somebody to say, oh, he puts a bunch of sand trouts on his body and he turns into it. And the other guy is like, what the fuck are you talking about? Back up.
Yeah, absolutely. The other off-topic thing I wanted to ask about was you were on the set of The Crow, it seems.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any stories, any anecdotes, anything you can tell us about the vibe, anything about it?
The coolest thing was seeing Brandon meet James for the first time and say to him, it's not an easy thing to meet your maker.
Whoa.
Which that's the line from Blade Runner, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was there for I think about a few weeks towards the end of the shoot. It was about a week before Brandon died. They had a couple of weeks of a press week where they invited people from press to come and do coverage and stuff. It was
part of that.
Yeah, it was for the shootout and the nightclub.
Okay.
As well as for the Gideon's pawn shop explosion stuff.
Right. Okay, so what's coming up next for you? It looks like you're reworking your old comics Golgothica. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm reworking Golgothica. I hope to have it done by the end of this year. That's a book I started for Caliber. It was going to be 6 issues, only got 5 done, and then Caliber folded. And rather than finishing it back then, I just kind of moved on. But I thought it would be fun to go back and finish it. It's so of its time. It's kind of fun to.
It's a kind of cyberpunky thing,
Yeah,
right?
it's a black and white cyberpunk story. Was originally going to be published by Dark Horse as a backup feature in a cyberpunk book that James was doing.
Okay.
But that fell through, and that's when I took it over to Caliber. It's a story about failure and clawing your way back from massive absolute failure disguised as a cyberpunk story.
Oh, okay. I'm looking forward to it. And so the From Inside movie is completely free on YouTube. Like there's an official upload. Again, you seem to be doing all this stuff just for the artistic merit of it. Yeah.
A lot of it, yeah.
Okay, well, amazing. Thank you very much for chatting
Sure.
today.
Yeah,
Well, a
thanks.
lot of great insights about the whole process from the comic and the movie and everything.
Well, thanks again for having me. It was interesting to look back at it.
Okay, now we're back. I did exchange a few emails with John after the interview. And there was
Amazing.
an anecdote, a convention story that he meant to tell in the interview, which he didn't. So I'm going to read this.
Okay.
Because it's really great. In 1993, James O'Barr and I were attending the San Diego Comic Con with Kitchen Sink. James was there with The Crow, and I was there with From Inside. We were sitting together in the booth when a gentleman approached, picked up my copy of From Inside, and flipped through the book. "There are no words in this," he said to me, looking shocked. "It's a very quiet comic," I explained. "The pictures tell you everything you need to know, so there's no need to over-describe with words what you can plainly already see." He flipped through more of the book, shaking his head in disbelief. "My God, there aren't even any word balloons." I nodded. "That's right. The story is told from the perspective of a single person who is very sad and in shock. She, along with all the other characters, is injured and broken. None of them feels like talking." "It's unbelievable that you can do this," he said. "How is this possible? It's impressive. 300 pages and no words, no text boxes, no word balloons." He complimented me on the book and said he would eagerly pick up a copy once it was published. Then he left.
Okay.
I turned to James and said, "Wow, that guy was really excited about the concept of a graphic novel without a ton of words in it." "You don't know who that was, do you?" James asked me. I shrugged. "No idea." James pointed at the gentleman as he disappeared into the crowd. "That was David Lloyd, Alan Moore's artist."
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Ring the bell.
There is that one chapter of V that has no words in it, though. That one, bonus chapter.
Yeah, right. Oh, but that one's not in... That's not one... That one's not... It's at the end, isn't it? It's not actually in the...
Oh.
That was like a separate adventure. Wasn't that a singular adventure? Not
Yeah,
that it
something
matters.
like that. Yeah.
But you are right.
Yeah.
Dave Lloyd doesn't. That's a hell of a story. I just think there's a booth at James O'Barr and John Bergin in it, and they're both promoting. They're promoting From Inside and The Crow. That's a pretty fucking depressing booth.
Well, yes, this came up in the interview, is that all that kind of Tundra stuff was pretty dark.
Anyone that visited that booth needed to go straight to therapy.
Okay, so let's talk about this comic.
Yep.
As I mentioned, 1993 was Tundra, Kitchen Sink. Kitchen Sink had bought Tundra because of all that business stuff that was going on. In the interview, I mistakenly got it the wrong way around. I thought that Tundra had bought Kitchen Sink, but it was actually the other way around, which he corrected me on. But anyway, we mentioned that it's kind of like Snowpiercer, but that's where the comparison kind of ends.
Yeah, sure.
It's...
Transpersonnage.
Yes. It's very bleak, nihilistic, fatalistic, all those words.
Absolutely.
We talked about Giger, we talked about Beksinski. There's kind of a Dave McKean vibes at times.
You know, when I read it, I thought of a couple of things.
Yeah.
First of all, this is Eraserhead the comic.
Yes, absolutely. That's in there too.
I mean, notoriously, what's Eraserhead about? Who bloody knows? But David Lynch was working out some of his anxieties about becoming a father in that movie. And we've got it straight from the source that John Bergin was putting down some of his anxieties about bringing children into a flawed world.
I felt it reading it before I ever talked to him, because it's this woman is pregnant. She's on this train. At the beginning of the book, for the first 200 pages, it seems like it's like she's in a literal hell. Mm-hmm. You don't know that it's necessarily an apocalypse, because there are certain aspects that are impossible.
Yes.
Like there's a dog that has no skin
face
on its face and no eyes.
Yes.
But it's still kind of getting around.
Yes.
There are certain things
and
like
what's
that.
this train? I mean,
Yes, exactly.
this is
How
an
is any of this
impossible
functioning?
train.
Exactly.
It's a steam train too.
Yeah.
Where does all its fuel come from?
Yeah.
You know, I love that it's a steam train. This is an allegorical story, and I mean, we got this straight from John. He said that allegorical storytelling he felt was missing from comics. He was saying, because he was talked about Brave New World in about 1984. Where is the allegorical dystopia in comic book writing? And so he wrote one. Yeah. Another thing it reminded me of, a novel that you gave me, which is Other Side of the Mountain.
Oh yeah. Yeah, by Bernanos.
Yes.
Michael Bernanos.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a writer who ended up killing himself. There you are. It's all there. It's in that same zone. Yeah. That is absolutely a similar vibe to that.
Very much so.
This guy just shows up on this island. He's shipwrecked. And then he just has to cross this hellscape, and he goes to this mountain. He finds this mountain at the end, and there are all these like petrified corpses on it. And then he starts climbing up there, and he's petrified. The end.
Yeah. So it had a very similar vibe.
Yes.
To this comic.
But I was what I was getting to was that the lady our main character is a pregnant woman, and she does not want the child to be born into this world.
Yes.
And she has lots of fatalistic ideas, like she fantasizes about climbing to the top of the structure and jumping off.
Yeah.
Or just dying in any number of ways to prevent bringing the child into the world.
Yeah, at one point they cross a bridge where a previous train had been derailed. Off the bridge, you can look down and see the bridge where all the occupants in the train died when they fell in the water. And she said, "I wish that was my train."
Yeah. There's stuff like that in it.
So she's feeling trapped.
Yes. So there's kind of visually it's also, I was getting kind of Clive Barker vibes from it at times too, especially like with that dog with no face, and there's the doctor that delivers the baby.
Yeah, there's
well as kind of like this weird mask.
There are characters that can't be real too. Yeah. The nurse, for example, has 4 fingers. 3 fingers,
it has kind of like a pig nose.
A pig nose, and is too big, like 8 feet tall.
Right.
Looks like a monster, basically. And the doctor's much the same. Oh, yeah. So, even though our protagonist falls asleep and dreams, the world that she's living in when she's awake is very much a dreamlike kind of world.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it. There's almost no difference, in a sense, between the two. But later on, we do learn that there actually was a nuclear holocaust in this world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of...
I'm not sure how I feel about that. I don't even know if you need a nuclear holocaust. I mean, that's a comprehensible apocalypse.
Yes.
I understand why.
Yes.
Why it's used as a framing device, but I honestly think you wouldn't have lost anything if you just hadn't included it at all.
Yeah, because the nuclear apocalypse doesn't explain the dog or the doctor or the nurse or...
Yep.
Any of those things.
Yeah, or a train line that goes around the world.
But it was...
Well, it's presumably America because we have buffalo. Well, also we have phantom buffalo. There aren't herds of buffalo anymore. This is like a settler narrative. I understand why he did it because the settlers, as they moved west, did an apocalypse, a buffalo apocalypse on the native buffalo population of America. So here we're seeing that repeated again.
Yes, there's definitely themes of like extinction because dinosaurs show up.
Yeah. About the
well, not real dinosaurs, but dinosaur toys.
Oh yeah. Very allegorical. So the idea of extinction, as you put it, like being extinguished, the futility of, I suppose, reproduction, and the nature of life to prey on life.
Yeah.
It's all. Why participate in that cycle? I think is one of the messages. I think.
Yeah. So she's on the train. She has no memory. She's kind of got amnesia, partial amnesia. Mm-hmm. She remembers she does have a husband, but she doesn't remember what happened to him. Yep. She has affectionate memories of him, like she wishes he was there to put his hand on her stomach. Yep. Things like that.
Yep. She reads her birthing book, and it has a whole lot of pages about where the husband supports, or where the father supports the mother in birthing positions, and she observes, where's my husband? Why isn't he here? I wish he was here.
Yes. And it starts out she's having a dream about these 2 engineers that are like filling a furnace with bodies.
Yeah, this here we go. We're really kicking
opening
off.
Scene.
Yeah, this is hardcore.
Yeah.
This to describe this scene, they're stoking the fire with bodies.
Yeah.
And I believe that, one of them uses a pitchfork to spear a baby that's alive.
Yeah.
And then put it in the furnace.
Yeah.
It's very confronting, and it's in the first 10 pages.
Yes. But then we learn about this train. A lot of information the information is given us through first-person narration from her.
Yes.
Sometimes you get diary pages.
Oh, right, yes, some diary pages.
Yeah, the only... Sometimes other people will say a word or two.
But it's her repeating what they say,
Often it's...
it?
Yeah, but sometimes, like, she'll confront people and they'll say no or yes, or just, like, one word.
Right.
Something like that. They're almost never to hear anyone else speak.
Got it.
Usually it is what... So they stop at this bridge where this other train has gone off the rails, as you mentioned. They find that dog there. She never sees the same passengers twice, for the most part, except for one guy who's kind of like the Invisible Man. He's completely wrapped in bandages and he's missing an arm.
Yes.
Which I didn't pick up until like my third read.
Yeah. Well, the arm's on the floor.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sure what the deal... I'm just going to put it out there. I'm not sure what the deal with Bandage Man is.
Well, I have... Okay, here's what I'll say about Bandage Man.
Okay.
At the end of the comic, there's a moment where he's rescued her.
Yes.
And she said, why did you help me? And he's been helping her secretly throughout the book. She realizes at the very end. And he says, well, somebody had to be your guardian angel. Mm-hmm. Then he pulls off his bandages and, like, evaporates.
Yeah.
Like there was nothing under there. Okay, so again, this is a thing that is not explained by nuclear war. It has to be in hell, like, or some mythical plane that this is happening on.
Yes.
Yes. So his deal is he is kind of a guardian angel, but he's on the train the whole time. This is kind of a difference, to jump ahead to the movie. In the movie, we get the scene where he boards the train. He boards at the same time that the dog does.
Yes.
But he never says, you needed a guardian angel.
No.
So...
But he does imply clearly that he has a purpose because one of his lines has changed from the book. I think at the end of the book, the comic, he says, I failed, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Failed to protect her and the baby, I suppose. But in the film, he says, I've done all I can, now it's up to you.
Yeah.
Which is different.
Yeah.
But I think more explicit in implying that he had a purpose to being there.
Right. But I think if he had, as in the movie, if we had seen him board the train, and then, as in the comic, he said, somebody needs to be your guardian angel, that would have been too much.
Yeah.
Too on the nose, right?
Okay.
To have, like, this mystical being show up.
So he's a literal guardian. It seems like, sure, he disappears at the end. He might have been evaporating or crumbling as the story went along.
She does say, at that point, when he's about to evaporate, she says it sounds like he's melting or something like that.
But he's been losing parts as the story's been going on, like the arm, and she makes an observation at another point that he's suffered an injury since the last time she saw him.
Yes.
So it's, at the one hand, he's a guardian angel, but on the other, he's impermanent.
Yeah.
he's like running down like a clock. I don't know. I think him and the husband are linked.
Oh, okay.
Just there's nothing. I can't point as to why I think that, but perhaps he's the spirit or ghost of her husband.
I never thought of that, but it does make sense.
There's nothing explicit in the text that says that.
No, there isn't. Okay. Next, I think they find a farm. So the river, the river is turned into like a river of blood after this train wreck.
Yeah, there are no rivers of blood. And it's full of, like, dolls at one point? Or
Yes, dolls. Full of wreckage.
Or is that a dream? It's hard to tell.
There is one... I think there is one doll. I've read this 3 times, and I'm still like, was that a dream or did that happen? There is... I think when they're going to the houses, there's like toys. There's toys throughout the book, but in this scene we get like a tricycle and the doll. Yes, there is a doll in the water, in the blood red water, as they're going across to these farmhouses. They found this abandoned community. She goes through. There was a family living there. Some people have a feast.
But it's invisible. Yeah, like this is the town is empty, but it has food and stuff. But also, this town couldn't exist because it's been flooded by this is a blood river as well.
Yeah,
there are no blood rivers, so this is another impossibility. This is like something that would appear in either side of the
I assume it was blood because it starts as a stream.
I think
and then it gets bigger, and then it becomes a big lake that the train has to go through. I think it was blood from the first train wreck.
Okay, fair enough.
Because first they just see wreckage, and then later she starts seeing the bodies start popping up in the water from that train wreck, like
Yes.
they flowed downstream.
Yes, but I mean, it's a physical impossibility that you can have a river of blood like that.
I think it's...
And also, it's run through the village, and this town as well is up on stilts.
Yeah.
And it has pathways among all the houses, like leading from one house to another, like raised walkways. Like that, you wouldn't... There's no reason for there to be raised walkways in this town, right?
Yeah.
Because this river of blood has presumably arrived later because of the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Fine, because this is a surreal, nightmarish landscape, like other side of the mountain. It's fine. Basically, there's a whole series of these kinds of vignettes. It's a bit like Cursed Earth.
Yeah.
They just go from place to place, and they encounter impossible, horrifying messages about the hammer blows. John Bergin called them.
Yeah.
About the futility of existence.
Yeah, well so the next place they come to, so some people are staying behind in the farm village. They're like, well, we're going to live here and try to fix it up or whatever. She's like, well, what use am I? No, nobody has any use for a pregnant woman.
An interesting point as well. I noticed that too when I read it. An interesting point. The people that went and stayed in the village would actively resist having a woman with a child. You think that's your number one priority. What's the point otherwise? Yeah. I think he's making a point here that these people have become... Also, there are no children on the train.
That's right.
As well.
She does find one at the very end, but she believes there are no children.
Yes, she says it's the only children she's ever seen, and it's dying, it's neglected, it's not being cared for. So these people in the apocalypse are no longer concerned about the next generation.
Yeah.
They've given up on the idea of having children.
Yeah.
And she herself is almost giving up on the idea of having children as well.
Yeah.
I think when I read the book the first time, I didn't pick up on the anxieties of childbirth specifically. I thought the theme was of escape. I thought that our main character, who I think is nameless, is trying to escape.
Yeah. To find a place of survival, you mean, like an end of the track?
Well,
where there's a place she could live with forest? She's
sort of trapped within Russian dolls of horrors that none of which she can escape. The train itself is a kind of thing that you can't leave.
Yeah.
The apocalypse then is another thing that is inescapable, because even if you leave the train, then you're in the apocalypse.
Yes, that comes up again and again. She's like, there used to be more stars that were visible. Now there's less. I'm not sure why that would be, but she's like, she says she used to go up to the observation deck with other passengers, but now there's nothing to see anymore.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And why would you go on the observation deck unless you were thinking of leaving the train, I suppose? And then, of course, ultimately, the final Matryoshka doll is the baby itself inside her.
That's right.
Which both wants to come out, and also she doesn't want it to come out, and she wants to escape from it. So I felt a real oppressive sense of imprisonment when I was reading the book. And even the title spoke to me a little bit about that, the from inside part. And, of course, the ending, which is a real downer if we're skipping ahead. There's this bit where... Alright, so after they've gone through all of these various trials, there's been various ones, herds of unmoving buffalo that they slaughter, setting up the train as a slaughterhouse briefly.
Yeah.
At one point she explores the train and it goes on forever and just gets more and more squalid. She has a dream where she buries a bunch of dolls.
Yes. There's like a wave of like bits of mechanical bits that's like coming towards her on the shore. She's standing on the shore and there's like this mountain of rubbish that's coming at her. And then there's all these dolls in the red lake, and she tries to bury them to silence them because they're all saying "Mama, Mama," and she tries to bury them, and they won't be quiet.
Yeah, yeah. Another hammer blow.
Yeah.
Well, and then shortly after that, she gives birth, and at first the baby's sickly, and so is she, but eventually it thrives.
Yeah.
And we get a few pages of blue skies and like triumph, the triumph of the human spirit. Yeah. I'm reading this, I'm like, are you kidding me? But that was premature, because the very next page, the train goes off a literal cliff.
Yeah, we get like a 20-page train crash, maybe? 10, 15,
so
20
long.
pages.
And anyway, it just continues, and eventually she and the baby burn to death.
Yeah.
And I read that, I was just like, wow, that's grim.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is no escape through children.
No.
You can't... The next generation...
There was a moment of hope. Isn't
your salvation.
Yeah.
she's trapped forever.
Yeah. Yeah, they all are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some of the things they come across a refinery, which the engineers retrieve some parts from.
Yep.
I think it's the buffaloes are next.
Yep.
So the train is just knocking them aside.
Yep.
Like what that thing on the front of the train is actually 4 cows, right? It's called a cattle catcher or something.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So it's doing its job. It's flinging these, but then they get the engineers or whoever's running this train, these shadowy figures, get out and start murdering these buffalo. And they, as you said, they separate 4 cars out. There's a moment that's interesting here where her job is sharpening the knives in car number 1, where they slaughter them. But later she gets out and she sees that there's blood dripping out of all 4 cars, which is a detail that's not in the movie, and I'm not sure what.
I saw that too. I read that more than once trying to figure out what it meant, and I didn't.
Yeah. And there's a grim moment here where one day they cut open one of the buffalo and there's like a fetus in there that I think it opens its eyes and looks at her, she even says, or something like that.
It may have looked at her, or perhaps she imagined it.
Yep.
But also that's pretty... Yep, okay. There's another one of those hammer blows.
Yeah. This mystery man with the bandages, she decides to follow him one day. She's the only one that has seen more than once, and she follows him to his room, and she spies on him as he unwraps some bandages, and seems like some pieces of him are falling off or whatever. And he's now keeping the dog as a pet, and the dog kind of scares her off. And then we get one of my favorite sequences where it starts to snow, and he does a really great job of describing the cold. He describes everything really...
Yeah, it's
actually,
good prose.
The prose is really... I wrote down some lines like, I can see the shore far away, a thin brown line of the horizon like a scab.
He's really good.
And, there's where she's talking about, like, the heat coming off the fire and how it makes her skin feel dry. And everything is really... Anything you can't get out of the images... He's really good at putting into words.
I must say...
And the cold, when they're going through the snowstorm, is really... I felt it. I really felt the cold.
So we've got great prose. He's drawn these beautiful... I'm not sure beautiful is the word, but certainly gripping images.
Yeah.
With a very definite aesthetic. And also, we've got photos that he's taken as well. Photos of... that are scattered throughout the text. John Bergin just seems like the kind of guy that just has a compulsion to make art.
Yes.
In every medium.
You get that impression. Absolutely, yeah. I didn't even think about asking him about the photos, but yeah.
Because he's still doing it. I mean, it's like you talked about in the interview, he's making these Instagram posts where he's just inventing imaginary Dune comics.
Yeah.
Like Frank Herbert wrote this comic about the planet X.
Yeah.
And so it's like he can't stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
I admire it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this is when they go through the snowstorm. She hears some noises. She hears like a gunshot, and she goes to the train, and she finds a bunch of people who are eating other people.
Yes.
And she runs away from them, and then she realizes that they're not chasing her because they are shamed.
Yes.
And she hides in this, like, maybe storage area, and she thinks she's being followed by the bandaged man, but the bandaged man is actually just looking for his dog.
Yeah.
And after he leaves, she goes through some of the boxes, and it's bits of machinery that were recovered from the refinery, but she finds a storybook.
Yeah.
Called The Little Fire Engine.
Yeah, it's basically like the little engine that could.
That's right. But it's just about this fire engine that has to take these toys back to its owners, and there's a big fire, and it has to go through them.
Yeah.
This, by the way, we haven't talked about, in terms of motifs, fire comes up again and again. And quite often when he draws the train, you'll get a full-page splash of the train traveling, but it will be an overhead shot, so it looks like it's falling down the page. And that happens again and again. It's like there's some good foreshadowing in here, that kind of stuff. Right, so then they get to a tunnel. And the bandaged man goes into the tunnel to do recon and see whether they can actually get through. He says yes. They start traveling through the tunnel, but then it's
There's a collision. There was an obstruction that Bandage Man hadn't spotted. Yeah. It seems like they were going very fast in the tunnel too. Maybe go slowly through the tunnel.
Yeah.
There was a tunnel in Snowpiercer as well.
Yeah, that's right.
In the film, anyway. So then they start the enormous job of clearing the obstruction. Right. More of the fruitless labor of life.
Yes.
Our protagonist is very unimpressed with this and just figures they'll never get through it.
In fact, she doesn't want to.
No.
She says better to die here in this tunnel than go back out into that hell world.
Yeah.
She's been injured, but she's kind of in the the infirmary, the train infirmary.
This is where we meet the nurse, the monstrous nurse,
yeah.
and the equally monstrous doctor. She's treated for a while, drugged.
Yeah.
Not sure that's safe for the baby. But then she goes into labour and gives birth right as their train's coming out of the tunnel.
Yeah.
In a pretty explicit bit of allegorical storytelling there.
It's a bit more in the movie because the train comes out of the tunnel, but the way he's done it with the CGI in the movie, it really looks like two thighs.
Yeah.
With the train,
two mountainous thighs.
Yeah, literal mountainous thighs.
Yeah.
Whereas in the comic, it's explicit, but
they show it.
It doesn't look like thighs.
The baby's coming out.
Yeah.
Of one tunnel.
Yes.
And the train's coming out of the other tunnel on the same page, basically.
Yeah. That's when she has the nightmare about the wall of.
Yeah, we get
the wall of Giger bits coming towards
very groovy kind of image of the train, which she used for the poster or the promotional.
Oh yeah, there's that too. Once the train crashes through that, it's like the engine with these fangs on it, jaws, these big jaws.
It's a very Giger-esque image. I mean, trains just look like dicks anyway.
Yeah.
This one looks particularly like a dick.
Yes. Yes.
With teeth.
Yes, with teeth. Yeah, absolutely. So the doctor's now she starts to get some memory back.
Yeah.
Of after the baby's born, she starts to get her memory back of what had actually happened and the apocalypse. And this is when we first learn about the nuclear holocaust. But then she found a train station.
Yeah, that's interesting.
With trains running.
Another thing was we don't need to know how she got on the train.
Yeah.
It's okay. She's just on the forever train.
Yeah.
This is what, purgatory or something? You don't need to tell me that she went to a train station after a bomb went off and boarded a train. This is an impossible train.
Yes. I
she doesn't need to board it at the impossible station.
It's an interesting question. How do you choose what to include and cut from your purgatory?
Yeah, it's okay. I do, and then later on we have, after the train goes off after this scene, the baby's not thriving, then it starts thriving, and we get the kind of ersatz happy ending that's not a happy ending.
Yeah, she's like, I've learned to laugh again. And then she's like, I'm going up on that observation deck, and she holds the baby up into the blue sky, and then she looks and sees that the train is just running straight towards a cliff.
Yeah.
And she's like, why didn't you stop? After the crash, she's like, why didn't you stop? Why
don't we stop? Because the cliff is just one's own mortality? We're all hurtling towards the end?
In fact, the train, it actually does stop at times, but it didn't stop for this...
No, because this is the end.
Yeah.
This is the literal and allegorical end of the line.
Yeah.
So off they go. The train's destroyed. She has a flashback to finding her husband's body after the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Bandage Man makes his final pronouncement
he pulls her out of the rubble.
Yep.
And then is like, somebody needed to be your guardian angel, and then he vaporizes himself.
Then we get
his job is done.
A scene where the two surviving engineers are using the refinery equipment that they collected to make a new engine. And this engine is going to run... It has a compartment that is baby-shaped.
Yeah.
And they say, this is actually kind of like Snowpiercer.
Yeah.
Remember that one was like, do you get it? The baby literally runs on the suffering of children.
Yes.
We got the same thing here, and this is before Snowpiercer too. So John Bergin came up with the idea.
Yeah.
They say to her that life, civilization, reality is dependent on the continued suffering of humankind. You need to put your baby in the engine so that this can all just keep going.
Mm.
Keep having kids so samsara can continue.
Mm-hmm.
But she doesn't. She refuses. She says, you can't have my baby. She runs, and then
she finds the engine.
Yes, the original engine.
The original engine, and it's about to blow, and then it does explode, and her baby's not moving. She's unable to reach it, and she says, the flames surge closer, and then she says there's a 2-page spread where she says, "Let them come," and it's like you see the lady and the baby and the skeleton dog kind of floating in midair. The way it's composed, the way the image is composed, they're lying on the ground, but it's like they're floating in the flames of hell. And then we get a kind of image of her reaching out for her baby, grabbing one of her fingers, and her just saying, "My baby," and that's the end.
Yeah. So, and they clearly die.
Yes.
I don't know why, but okay, they do. Fine. I mean, we know that that's the ending anyway.
Well, she can't reach her baby because the flames are...
She didn't... Yeah.
Her legs won't move.
Yeah. She
can't reach her baby. The fire's coming.
Is this Nirvana?
Good question.
Could be.
It's annihilation.
Yeah, of a kind.
Yeah.
She didn't... There is no perpetuation. She didn't put her baby in the engine to power the continued existence through suffering. So we know from John told us in the interview that he helpfully gave us the Cliff Notes where this is about should you have children?
Yeah.
Life is a vale of tears. It's a train in the apocalypse. We are doomed to suffering. Do we doom our children to it as well? What's the answer?
It's interesting. There's no answer, but also as we got from the interview, that answer will change.
Oh yeah,
as you change.
That's right. You're right. He's had 3 different perspectives on it at 3 different points in his life.
Yeah.
At first, it was a very serious exploration of anxieties about a different stage of life. Then he had his kids, and he returned to it, and he was like, "Wow, this is some pretentious bullshit."
Yeah.
And then I was amazing that the 3rd time in his life he read it was to prepare for this podcast. I'm very flattered to hear that. But he's just come to think this is good. This sums up. This is some art, and I'm proud of it.
Yeah,
it was good to hear that.
Yeah. So we get the movie in 2008. It starts a little bit different. We get a little bit of an intro where she's on the train, and she's like, it's like it's the end of the world, so what's the point? So we kind of, there's a little bit more table setting, a tiny bit, before we get to the dream about the engineers putting bodies into the furnace. Now, immediately we get this CGI train and CGI landscape. It's all done in a computer. It looks pretty video gamey.
It reminds me a bit of Ghost in the Shell 2.
Yes.
Some of those sequences from Ghost in the Shell 2. I'm fine with it. It looks cool.
I'm fine with it too, especially at times when he puts both in the same shot. So, for example, there's a scene where the train is going past these kind of bluffs, and then the camera pans down, and you see the drawings of corpses in the water. And this works when it's
I feel like it's the transition between the CGI and the drawings is less jarring than it was in Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah, right.
There's a clear difference between the cell drawings and the computer animation, and it would always be taking me out.
Yes.
With this, I felt less, even though they're radically different media, completely different ways of doing, but even so, it felt less.
I think part of it's because the animation's so limited.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at kind of still. Sometimes he has, as you mentioned, he chopped the art into planes so he could move a little bit. Like something in the foreground would move a little bit. But most of the time it's the camera doing the moving around. There are some flame effects and water effects, which are probably the two most important motifs. So he's done all the fire and kind of CGI. And sometimes it really works with throwing shadows and stuff of these 2D pencil charcoal drawings are throwing these 3D shadows. I thought that stuff worked pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, we should point out also that he did everything himself.
Yes. Yes, that's right. It says, I think the credit is
written, produced, animated, directed by John Bergin.
Yeah. And he did mention about the train going in a straight line. Watching it again today, I was like, maybe this serves a metaphorical purpose.
100%. 100%.
Maybe it's a error that contributed to the
100%.
theme?
Art from adversity.
Yeah.
So he said that in the interview, of course, he says that he didn't have the wherewithal to animate the train turning, but this is the strength of the kind of the train as metaphor, I guess.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about that later a bit more, but trains can only go one direction.
Yeah.
They have to go along the rails.
Yeah.
You don't lose anything by making those rails perfectly straight.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
If anything, it just makes the message more explicit.
Yeah. Now, how did you feel about the Gary Newman score, which...
Oh my god, I fucking loved it.
Yeah. Great.
It's so good.
It is
Score's
really
my
good.
favorite thing about it.
I think it's a little bit... The first time I saw it, because I watched the earlier version as well, it's really pretty bombastic whenever you get the engine in motion. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, was that the right choice? But actually this time I really dug it. I was
loved it.
like, the forward momentum of the music over the forward momentum of the train worked in those moments.
I love that anecdote too. I ran into Gary Newman. And he said to me he wanted to get into film scores. I said, hey, you want to score this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the circles that he moves in.
Yeah. 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 Okay, so it plays out pretty similar at this point. We don't get the diary entries, of course, so that information is given to us in different ways. But they get to we get to the train, but at this point we meet the banishment boards, as we mentioned before, which is a little bit different from the comic. They get to the farm. Interesting thing here is there is a bit of row, row your boat in the comic.
Oh, yeah.
Where the banished man sings row, row your boat as they're crossing.
Life is but a dream.
Life is but a dream. And he's cut that from this version, which I really, you wish they'd cut it from Star Trek V as well. Because that movie would be better if they weren't philosophizing about row, row, row your boat.
Yes.
So I think he made a smart... He probably
Well done.
read the comic and was like, I'm not going to put that in the movie.
No, he's seen Star Trek V.
Also, it would have to have the banished man speaking. So we've only got one voice actor in this.
Correct, yeah.
So...
Megan Gold.
Yeah, so we've
She
avoided
only has 2
that.
credits on IMDb.
I did notice that.
This and a TV movie about Charles Manson.
Yeah.
So she's got a definite...
Maybe I don't know. Maybe she's not a professional actress.
They were both in 2008.
Yeah. Maybe she just... Some people asked her for some favors. I don't know. Corinne Cummins, the woman who did the voiceover for the festival version,
Yes.
has more credits.
Ah, I see. I didn't... that one's on YouTube, but I didn't watch it.
Yeah. Okay, so the farmhouse, she now, as I mentioned in the interview, she collects a dinosaur toy from this place, which I could never figure out in the comic where that came
great.
from.
And we also see the bandage man boarding the train too in a slightly earlier scene.
Yeah.
So we get origins, some more explicit origins for some elements.
Yes. And it's similar. She doesn't stay at the farm. They get to the refinery. All this stuff plays out pretty similar. Now, they get to the buffaloes.
Yeah. We do.
Oh, the scene with the crows. The CGI crows are really good in this.
Yeah.
They're hitting the window and
They
stuff.
look better than the ones in The Crow.
Yes.
10 years makes a big difference. Oh, a bit more than 10 years, actually.
Yeah, that was pretty good. When they hit the buffalo, that is wild. He's done that in CG, and they're flinging out. These buffaloes are flinging around. That was a bit... I don't know if it would really look like that. That was a moment where I felt like the comic was more... There's something more evocative about the way he'd done the colors. Because when they come out, the engineers come out and start shooting these buffalo, he has a really great effect for that in the comic. And he's done a kind of CGI flamethrower kind of thing here.
Yeah, it seems indistinguishable from the later footage.
Yes.
The later effect that he used for the actual flamethrowers when they clear the snow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it has machine gun noises.
Yes. So that plays it. We don't get the bit about all 4 cars bleeding.
No.
In this one.
No, but we still get the guy sticking his head in a buffalo carcass.
Yes.
Same image.
Yes.
Why is he sticking his head in that buffalo carcass?
I don't know, because he scanned the art and he's put it in the movie, so we've got that same guy.
Email us again, please. Let us know.
Okay, now we get the bit where she goes through the train looking at people and talking about them. Interesting difference here is in the comic she sees this one guy in particular and says, some people don't understand me. And here she says some people don't seem to speak English. I'm not sure why that was changed. Doesn't matter. There's a mutant guy walking around.
Yep.
It's actually a really scary panel in the comic. You just get this kind of half image of this guy behind the door.
He's peering through a door,
Yeah.
Yeah, it is creepy.
It's pretty scary. In this, I think it's even less, like, you don't get as clear a view of him. She doesn't follow the bandaged man in this version to his rooms.
Yeah. Yeah, fine. A bit less important. It doesn't really go anywhere, really, in the...
No, but, well, she feels scared of him in the comic.
Right.
He's been on the train since the beginning, and she feels threatened by him.
That's right.
And it's not until after the crash and he pulls her out that she realizes...
That he's been looking after her all along.
It plays out differently in this version.
You're right.
She doesn't follow him to his room, but she... At the end, when she's going up to the observation deck with the baby, in that moment of glory, she meets him between cars. And then she has a realization. This is before the crash.
Yes, you're right.
She's like, oh, I felt threatened by him, but he's actually been helping me.
She's the same line. What I thought were coincidences, I now realise was design.
Yeah.
He's been looking after me.
Yeah.
Putting it earlier, I think, makes him a more sympathetic figure, doesn't it? From the start.
You mean her figuring it out?
Yes, yeah, her figuring it out.
Yeah, I guess so.
Rather than the reveal at the end that he was...
Right, that he wasn't a bad guy when he pulls her out of the rubble. Yeah. Yes.
I guess in the comic there's a bit of a mystery about what his deal is, because he does feature quite a bit, and it's not really a mystery that goes anywhere. So I can see why he's made the choice to excise that particular kind of subplot. Right.
The snow sequence is not in here, which was kind of my favorite sequence in the book because it felt really cold. Here we don't get any of that.
And is frozen.
The train stops and the guys get out with flamethrowers.
Like when the
but there's no
is
voiceover
laced up in 20,000 Leagues.
Yeah.
They do get out the flamethrower and do the...
Yeah. But there's no voiceover about it or description of how cold it is or anything like that. The bit with cannibals, as we mentioned in the interview, is not here.
That's a fine choice.
Yep. And then they are in the tunnel and they hit the wall. She ends up in the hospital.
We have the nurse and the doctor, the creepy nurse and doctor, who shouldn't exist but do.
Yeah. Yep. Now, here, she decides to get away from the nurse and the infirmary, and she goes for a wander, and she finds the storage room and finds the book.
Yep.
So this has been moved as well.
Yep.
Instead of being after the cannibal scene, and she wanders into this place and finds this book, it's been moved, and we get this sequence at this position instead. Then she goes... She doesn't read the end of the book as she does in the comic, and then she goes to wander through the train. She goes to the back and she finds a little baby or a child. And then the birth starts, as it does in the comic. The birth is handled really... It's pretty cool. I like the way it's done in the movie, where he's used some of these kind of organic, looks like internal something. You don't know what it is. It's like Giger-esque internal organs, or we don't know. But he's kind of used these warping effects. And then the baby is born, and we get the thigh mountains.
Yes. The train coming out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, interesting difference here is after everything's gotten better, she has her memories, we get the flashback to boarding the train, etc. The nurse tells her that there is no car with a bunch of poor people on it, and there was never a child.
Yes.
That's not in the comic. It's
You're right. Odd choice, because, I mean, it's a magic train.
Yes.
Because it goes on forever.
Yes.
The further you wander into it, the more squalid it gets.
Yes.
And, you can never reach the end of the train, so presumably it would just become more and more squalid and more hellish.
Yeah.
Into infinity. And she finds that one baby and cradles it, and then she brings it back, and then she goes back and gives birth. Now the nurse is saying that you imagined that. I don't really understand why. Thoughts?
Maybe my guess was that there was an implication that was a food train. That those people were for eating.
Oh.
And that's why she was denying their existence.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe it makes more sense that it really was a dream.
Okay.
That car...
Because it can't be a forever train. Yeah. But so many other things about it are unrealistic.
Yeah, that's true. Don't know. It's another mystery.
Mysteries are good.
So she leaves to go up to the observation deck. That's when she meets the bandage man. Then the train goes off the cliff.
Yeah, it does. Do you think, actually, now that you mention it, to wind back just a step, I'm thinking of another change where I think in the comic, when they're stopped in the rain, the line in the comic I think is, the engineers fill the boiler with rainwater.
Yes, that's right.
And in the film, I think the line is, the engineers try to fill the boiler with rainwater.
Huh.
And it's like, why make that change? Is it because it's hard to fill a boiler with rainwater? And we need a line establishing that this is a real train? Like, if
that's a weird change, like the one about changing from they don't understand me to they don't understand English. Does it clarify anything, mate?
Sometimes I feel like maybe some of these choices are to make the train more real,
yeah, right,
and less fantastical.
Yes, right.
I get what kind of narrative purpose that serves. I don't really know. Let us know.
Okay. All right. So the train crashes. I have to say, so it's a full CG sequence where like we've got freezes of the train.
It's a really long sequence.
Yes, as it is in the comic. But I like the blasting images in the comic a bit more. There was, I don't know, it felt more dynamic in the comic as you're flipping these pages, and some of them are like
it is a bit static. Yeah,
white.
you're right. It's a clear difference between, like the moving image medium that is film. When you have static images, they feel very, very static, don't they?
Yeah.
Whereas in the comic, you kind of like your mind supplies the motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree.
So this plays out pretty similarly. She's rescued. She remembers pulling her husband out of the wreckage. And now she's rescued by the bandaged man.
He gives a slightly different line, as I mentioned, where he says, "I've done as much as I can. Now it's up to you."
Yeah.
What is up to her? I guess the decision to survive, or the decision to
feed your baby into the machine and keep going,
it's possible.
Right. But she sees those engineers with their new engine.
Yep.
And she finds the original engine, it explodes, and she can't reach her baby in time, and then she's like, let the flames come.
Yep.
And that's the end. Okay, so I'm assuming we don't have any trivia that we did not get from John.
No trivia.
Okay.
No, there's almost nothing online about this. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the train as metaphor.
Okay.
In the episode we did on Snowpiercer way back.
Yeah. Episode 2 or 3 or something?
I think it was episode 2.
Okay.
I talked a little bit about how that train was, I felt, a land-based version of the space arc kind of story.
Yeah.
Now, reading this comic, I've thought to myself that actually trains as a kind of metaphor for society do pop up a lot in fiction.
Yeah.
Especially science fiction.
Yeah.
I can think of several examples. There's obviously this one, there's Snowpiercer. There's Inverted World, one of, I think, Christopher Priest's best science fiction novel, which is about a city-sized train that moves at about 1.4 kilometres a day.
Right.
And there's all kinds of weirdness going on in that story.
Yeah.
But trains are good for this kind of storytelling, I think, for the reasons that John Bergin told us in the interview and some others. Because they go in, he said life is a train that goes straight, you can't get off.
Yeah.
So with trains, there's inevitability. As an analogy for life or a journey, because they go on the rails and the train can't stop. If it stops, and it can't go backwards, not really. It just has to keep going forwards. And it can't change direction. You can't go left or right. You can only go forwards and maybe to a lesser extent backwards. You can tell a story about social strata, levels within...
Yes, we had that in Snowpiercer, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Where the compartments are convenient, kind of like analogies for an environmental stratum, an economic strata, a social strata. I think that, and you can move from one carriage to another and move through different parts of the world, quote unquote. So it's really good as microcosm. On a train, you mix with many different people.
Yes.
And on a train, the operators are often separate from you.
Yes.
So the engineers, they're in a whole different part of the train and you don't have access to them. You know, unlike a bus or a car or something, you can't seize the controls really without an enormous effort.
Yeah.
So I think, and also there's a sense of, and this feeds into Bergin's story, there's a sense of futility about trains.
Yeah.
And that the only escape from a train in motion is your destruction or the train's destruction. And I think all of these, the train is kind of like this perfect... perfect storytelling device for talking about life and society.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
And as you mentioned, even the phallic imagery of it as well. Even that.
Yes.
Because I always think of the final shot of North by Northwest where Cary Grant pulls Eve Marie Saint up into the bed to kiss her, and then the final shot is this very cheeky shot of the train going into the tunnel. The end.
That's right. That's right. So there you go. It works on so many levels. It's so deep.
Yeah. I wonder if he hit on it like subconsciously, or he was like conscious of the train as a metaphor.
It just lends itself so effectively. I wouldn't be surprised if any number of people arrive at it thinking independently, but it's just has these great features, these great storytelling features.
Yeah. All right, so let's jump to our feelings, ratings. How do you feel about this comic?
I wish I could... this comic, I think I'm going to vote yay.
Okay.
I don't think I'll ever read it again because it made me feel sad.
Yeah.
But as a work of art, I respect it enormously.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say about that.
Okay, yeah, I agree. I really, really did love it. And I didn't feel the pretentiousness about it that John felt. I understand that it's grim, but that's the kind of fiction that I gravitate towards anyway. I have these Giger art books on my shelf. I have the Clive Barker books, all that kind of stuff. So it was just my kind of material.
Excellent.
How did you feel about the movie?
The movie, I wish I could vote on different parts of the movie.
Yep.
Because there's some stuff, like the soundtrack, for example, just to choose an example. I really like the soundtrack.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to vote nay, just because having read the comic, I don't really feel like I get the need for the film.
Well, this is interesting because you can't get this comic.
Right.
So, I mean, you might vote nay, but if anybody who's listening to this wants to read this material or be exposed to it, your only choice is to go onto YouTube or buy the DVD.
Right.
And experience it that way. And it has all the same material. It's scanned art from the comic on screen.
It's the comic on screen.
Yeah.
I think, and a lot of people really like this movie. You go on you go on the YouTube video, and there's lots of comments of people just saying things like, "Wow, this is really great. I really enjoyed this. This is fantastic. I can't believe how detailed the imagery is, how consistent the tone, how emotional I felt watching it. Oh yeah, and how rad the soundtrack is. Yeah. People dig this movie.
Yeah.
But so what did you think?
It's a yay, but I am lucky enough to own the book.
Yeah.
So I mean, let's dive right.
You and 2,000 other people.
Yeah.
You've got copy number 1,889 out of 2,000.
Yeah, of the signed editions. I don't know if there was an unsigned edition or.
The question is, were there only 2,000 of this comic ever printed?
Yeah, or what? Yeah, that's the question. We don't know.
I know how to find out, though.
Yes, yes. All these questions that have come up. You know, the reason we got here was that when I found out there was an adaptation of this book, and then I found out how hard the book was to get, I was like, well, maybe we shouldn't cover it. And then I DM'd John, and I said, are you ever going to reprint this? And that's how we started going back and forth. Yeah. And then you were like, well, you should ask him for an interview. Yeah. And that's where we ended up here. We almost didn't do this episode because this is so obscure.
But this is what we do.
Yes, this is what we do. So I want to kind of get into adaptation.
Yes.
So I think I like the comic more than the movie.
Okay.
But, of course, I think it's obviously a good adaptation now.
By your metrics.
By my metrics, yes. Yeah. And now, I can't wait to hear what you're going to say about it, because you're the guy that voted nay on Persepolis, which was an animated feature directed by the woman that had made the comic.
Did I vote nay on Persepolis?
You did. You absolutely voted nay on adaptation. So I can't wait to hear what you're going to say about From Inside.
I feel like I need to reconsider my vote in the light of that. Are you sure I voted nay on adaptation for Persepolis?
Yeah, I was in disbelief.
Yes, that makes sense. I was going to vote yay for this.
Okay.
At the risk of being inconsistent.
We've never been consistent about adaptation.
No, this is true. Proudly inconsistent.
Yeah.
Because for two reasons. On the one, because I feel like it satisfies both your and my metrics to an extent.
Yeah.
It's very clearly. I mean, first of all, the guy who wrote the comic has almost exclusive, unusually for a film, the most collaborative of all media. We're getting his singular vision here, with a little input from cool composers, a little input from a single voice actor, a little help with rendering and stuff like that. But otherwise, we're getting John Bergin's singular vision. So in that sense, it's hard to say nay.
Yeah.
And of course, it looks so much like the comic. You're getting something that looks so much like the comic. However, that's not my criteria for successful adaptation generally. But I feel like he's made enough small changes to the narrative that have improved it a little.
Yeah.
Made it clearer why some things are happening, made it incomprehensible where the bandaged man's status as a kind of almost like a guardian angel, because he arrives with the dog.
Yeah.
He descends.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's enough for me to tip it over to a yay for me.
Okay. By the way, my favorite bit in the movie, or one of my favorite bits, in the comic, when she arrives at the train station, she mentions the shattered glass on the ground, and it was really sparkly in the movie.
Yes, I love that too. I saw that too. I was thinking, why is this so sparkly? It was sparkly in her shadow, wasn't it?
Yes. It was like...
It's her shadow and it's sparkling in it.
Or it might have been a shadow of somebody, because all the shadows were burnt into the ground.
Ah, that explains
it. And...
Because I remember, I think I might have looked away and then looked back and then... Why is it so sparkly?
Yeah. It looked really beautiful in its despair on film.
Excellent. Well put.
Okay, so please like, rate, review, subscribe on whatever platform you're using, especially Apple Podcasts. Please contact us through the email address which is in the show notes, or you can send us a DM on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, or you can leave a comment on YouTube. All of those links are in the show notes, and please join our Patreon at patreon.com/comicbookmovieoblivion so we can buy super rare comics that you can't get. Okay, so we're going to stick with Nuclear Apocalypse. Next week we're going to do When the Wind Blows.
Yep.
Can't remember the year. Anyway, it's an animated feature. Going to have similar territory here where the art style is trying to be as close to the comic as possible.
Yeah, very much so.
But I haven't read the comic or seen the movie, so this will be new material for me, for both.
Great.
I don't remember when I got on the train, and I don't know where it's going. What difference does it make? It's the end. When the end of the world has come, it is too late to wonder why.